Thank you for joining today to talk about the School Principal Leadership and Mentoring Act. I've got some updates and also some reminders about where we should be right now, given that it's September and we are rolling out this new law and this new program that we have in place for our principals and assistant principals. So that new program, as a reminder, is called the APLDS program, and that stands for the Alabama Principal Leadership Development System that goes into effect starting this year. My name is Anna Shepard-Jones, and I primarily support the work that's tied to implementing this new law and this new program. So if you did not have the opportunity to join me for a session in August for superintendents and also APLDS district contacts, you can find the recording as well as those presentation materials by going to alabamaprincipals.org. You're going to hear me refer to that site quite often because it houses several different resources, anything related to the Principal Act and this program. If you go to that alabamaprincipals.org and click on the tab at the top that says presentations, you'll find a recording for that information that was presented in August. And in August, we went into a lot more detail about the purpose and timeline for this new law, the different program requirements and different components of this new leadership development system. And I also talked more about the stipend and the requirements for that. So if you did not have that chance to listen to that session, participate in that session, that recording is available for you. So for the September session with superintendents and the district contacts, we're going to get into some updates. I do have some new information for you. And then October, I'll go over any additional updates I may have at that time, and we'll get a little bit more into that new framework, which should be released by then. But today, I'm going to really focus in on the APLDS evaluation system because we do have an upcoming deadline for that. As a reminder, that is a requirement starting this year for principals and APs, and that deadline for the PLP, the Professional Learning Plan, to be completed and approved is October 1st. So I want to review that information. I also want to talk about some requirements related to professional learning, give you a couple of reminders about that, and just give you a very high-level overview of that new principal mentoring program that we have in place. So just to start off as a very high-level reminder of the overall goal of this program, just because it is so new, just want to orient us into what we're trying to accomplish here and how do we know if it's going to be successful. So ultimately, we are implementing this new leadership development system, that APLDS program, to increase the effectiveness of our school administrators across the state so that we're seeing improved academic outcomes for each and every one of our kids. So how do we know that this program is in fact working? Well, we're going to be looking at principal retention rates. Remember, so we want to build up this strong core of principals and APs across the state and retain them as school administrators so that they can maximize their impact at their schools. We'll also be looking at school climate. So for this one, think along the lines of a statewide survey that will go out every spring to collect that data. And then with student outcomes, this is where we're going to look at those report card indicators for achievement and growth. Right, so this is the data we're looking at every year to see, is this program moving the needle in these particular areas? And we're going to be reporting this data to the legislature when we're asking for the program to be funded. Now, this is new information. I've got some updates for you. So this is going to be the process for determining eligibility for your school administrators to participate in the program and their eligibility for that stipend. Now we have two different types of stipends, right? We've got the base supplement and then we have the additional supplement. And so this is going to be the process for determining who in your district, which school administrators in your district are eligible for the base supplement. So we're looking at first, does your district participate in the foundation program? Okay, then we're going to be looking at that LEAPS report that CSFOs submit every year, October. So the first week of October, we're going to be looking at the FY25 LEAPS report that are submitted. And then seeing in that report who is coded as a principal or assistant principal, and are they coded full time, right? Then from there, we'll look at our data in EdDAR to see if those individuals on the LEAPS report who are coded as principals or APs are also listed as a staff position as a principal or AP. Just as a reminder, somebody can have multiple staff positions in EdDAR. And then from there, we'll see, do they hold a valid leadership certificate? Now, for the additional supplement, so we're going to take a look at those list of individuals who meet that criteria for that base supplement and look at the school that they're affiliated with to see if that school meets this criteria for them to earn the additional supplement. So, several different ways to be eligible for that additional supplement. Remember, we're looking at if they're high poverty or low performing. So you've got that criteria listed here as well as here. Okay. And so they just have to meet one of the criterion in order to be eligible for that additional supplement. Now, this is what the process is going to look like. So we're going to pull that FY25 LEAPS report first week of October. We're going to work with our finance team for that. We're going to apply those other guidelines to that list. And then we're going to notify superintendents and APLDS district contacts through an email with a form. And this is going to be a DocuSign form where we're going to notify you, here are your list of school administrators who we see are eligible for that stipend, eligible for that program, and you know what amount that they're eligible for. Now, the superintendent will certify the eligibility. So they'll certify that those school administrators who are listed do in fact meet the criteria for those stipends. If we have somebody listed as a principal, you're certifying that they meet the law's definition of a principal, which is included here for you. But the key phrase is they're employed full-time at that local board, the key phrase being as the chief school administrator of a public school. All right, you'll also certify that nobody on that list is serving in an interim position. For example, if you have an interim principal, he or she is not eligible for this stipend or this program. And you'll also certify that those individuals listed do serve a cost center with students where they manage the daily operations, students, and staff, right? So operations in terms of thinking of the maintenance or budgets, students, they're handling discipline, staff, they're making those hiring decisions and doing those personnel decisions. Now, there's going to be an opportunity on this form for you to request a change and let us know, did we miss anything when we were pulling together that data? Were there any mistakes we made on our end? And you'll let us know through that form. Now, we're going to have to turn this around pretty quickly. So here's our timeline that we're looking at. We pull that report, we pull that data together. We want to send that to you about mid-October and ask that you certify and resubmit back to us November 1. So the goal here being that everybody knows on the front end of the school year if they're eligible for the stipend, and if so, how much. All right, and as a reminder of what's new for this school year. So remember, all principals and assistant principals have new leadership standards. Those are the Alabama standards for school leadership. We're also implementing that mentoring program for newly employed first-time principals. So again, principals who have never been in the principalship before. They are brand new in the principalship, and their contract started on or after July 1st of this year, of 2024. They're required to participate in a mentoring program for 2 consecutive years in order to get that stipend. So they get the stipend this year. After completing year 1 of the program, they'll get the stipend next year after completing year 2. Now, we also have that new APLDS evaluation system. So as a reminder, that's replacing Lead Alabama for all principals and APs starting this year, and it is required because there's no form for you to complete, no application for you to fill out or your school administrators to fill out. To indicate you're participating in this program. We know once you engage in this evaluation system. So that's how we're tracking your participation and ultimately your completion of this program. And that's why it's required. This is how we know. Now, the other component is completing at least 30 clock hours of high quality professional learning from that state approved list. And then the last component is that framework. Remember, this is going to be a resource to accompany those new leadership standards to help us understand what these standards are and some strategies to help us implement them. All right, so a few more reminders about this evaluation system. That it is not available for district administrators. That has been a question we've received. Can district administrators complete the APLDS evaluation system? And the answer to that is no. So anything related to APLDS is only intended for school administrators, so for principals and assistant principals. However, district administrators can still participate in Lead Alabama, but that's optional. It's available for you if you want it. We've also been getting some questions of, I'm a principal, why can't I access this APLDS evaluation system? Remember, we're still all going to AIM, and we're still clicking on that TE tile, but your principals and APs won't be able to start the evaluation system and start that process until that district option has been selected first. So that has to be done first before they have access. Also, making sure that your school administrators, what continuum they select, they have to select the school administrator continuum. That's how they're going to have access to the APLDS evaluation system. And if they accidentally select something else, a different continuum, they're not going to be able to engage in those proper steps. And then that deadline that's coming up is that the professional learning plan has to be completed by school administrators and approved by their supervisors no later than October 1st of 2024. So that's our more pressing deadline right now. So a reminder with this evaluation system, remember we're rolling this out in 2 phases. So at first, we're only going to see that professional learning plan in evidence. It's not going to be for a couple of years, so by 2027-28, that we're going to see all the different components of the evaluation system, including that self-assessment. So if your principals or APs are telling you and they are concerned that they're not doing a self-assessment and not seeing that like they're used to seeing for Lead Alabama, just let them know that that won't be in place for a couple of years. That's okay. Remember, we're not doing that self-assessment right away because we need a couple of years to train you on those new leadership standards before you see it in the evaluation system. Now, if you do have a principal or AP tell you that they have completed that self-assessment, they could have accidentally completed Lead Alabama instead of this APLDS evaluation system. So that's something to be on your radar as well. Now, that professional learning plan needs to include this. This is pulled straight from the law. This is language directly from the law. It says that all principals and APs need to have at least one goal for growth or achievement, or you can have a goal for both, and that everyone needs at least one goal for school climate. As a reminder, those are some of our measures of success for the overall program, but this law is really very much so focused on those 3 areas: growth, achievement, school climate. And then in that PLP, they'll say, hey, this is the professional learning from that state approved list that I plan on participating in that will ultimately help me meet my goals. Now that time frame is going to be July 1st, so it rolled over July 1st, and it will go until the 3rd week of June, which is a deadline a lot of us know already because that's when we have to certify other data in AIM. Now, we've been getting some questions about some example data sources when we're going to look at those goals. And so here are just some examples for you. When we're talking about growth and achievement, we're thinking really along the lines of student learning data. So we can be looking at state assessment results. We can be looking at those benchmark assessments, those maybe common assessments. Why benchmark and common assessments? So that we can monitor our progress along the way, right? So that we have that temperature check to see if we're on track. Now, when it comes to school climate, maybe think in terms of perception data. So we do know we've got some indirect measures of school climate, but a more direct measure of that would be that stakeholder survey results, maybe even a self-assessment tool. We've got an example for you here, the school climate self-assessment tool that's available to you and your school administrators if maybe they want to take their school leadership team, come together and complete this self-assessment and indicate, hey, these are some areas that we may want to focus on as we are setting that school climate goal and implementing certain things. So this is just a good starting point because we have been getting several questions about what data do we use for these goals. Now, what does it look like? Remember, it's going to look different for you than it is for them, but I want to walk you through the process of what your principals and APs will need to complete. So they're still going to go to AIM, and they're still going to click on that TE tile. And once they do their user settings, they're going to see this APLDS evaluation system. They're going to see this dashboard. Remember, we're looking for that icon that you've been seeing at the bottom of the screen, that logo. Now, they've got 4 steps to complete this year. So there's 4 steps for the evaluation system. The first is when they select their school administrator position. So if I'm an assistant principal, I'm just going to select that top option. Now, if I'm a principal, I'm going to fall into one of 2 categories. I'm either a newly employed first-time principal, so I've never been in the principalship before, and my contract started on or after July 1st of this year. And if I don't meet that criteria, then I'm going to select that last option of principal. Now, why do we have different options? It's because you have different program requirements that you have to complete in order to get this stipend. So whatever's selected here is going to set you up for what you should be completing to get that stipend. Now, step 2 is the professional learning plan. So once they click on step 2, they're going to see these 2 rectangles that participate in discussion. That is optional. That is a feature if you want your school administrators to engage in a dialogue with their supervisors about what an appropriate PLP goal might be, but that is completely optional. Now, this other one, this left one, APLDS goals, that is not optional. That's what's required by that October 1st deadline. So I'm going to go over that one. Now, this is where they're going to do those goals. Remember, we're focused on growth, achievement, school climate. Now, they can choose a growth goal or an achievement goal or both. So whatever they select between growth and achievement or both is going to be that drop-down box that they see, right, where they can add their goal. And then everybody's going to see that box for school climate goal because everybody needs at least one school climate goal. Now, a couple of things to point out. I know that y'all have really dug into your data, determined your most critical needs when it comes to these areas, but you don't have to put all that in the platform. So it's not necessarily a paragraph, right? It just can be that SMART goal, right? When it comes to setting a goal that's specific, so really honed in on a particular focus, it's measurable. So we have some type of percentage in place for growth, achievement, school climate. We know what that target is. That percentage, that target we have in place is attainable. So it's a stretch, but still within reach. It's relevant and database, so it's based off of determining our most critical needs, and then it's time bound. So with it being a PLP, what can we accomplish within 1 year? Now, something else to lift up, we would recommend no more than 3 to 5 goals total. That means overall across all those areas. And that's because we really want to do less with greater focus. If we get beyond that, it's really hard to keep that focus. And really encourage them too to think through how to align those PLP goals with their ACIP focus, right? Because it really should work in lockstep with each other, right? My continuous improvement plan, it's how are we going to improve? Those are the evidence-based strategies that I'm going to put in place. My professional learning plan, how I'm going to improve. Well, that's professional learning that I'm going to participate in and apply that new learning. So it really should all just streamline beautifully and work together. Now, they're also going to see a box where they will put in their plan of professional learning. So here's my plan that I plan to participate in from that state approved list. They'll have a link to that state approved list. Now, they'll also say what is their expected evidence. So remember, this is their expected evidence that's going to demonstrate their application of new learning. So a little bit more of a stretch beyond just their transcript through Power School Professional Learning that they attended, right? So what is a little bit more robust evidence to show that they're applying their learning. Now, once they've done that, then it's going to unlock step 3 for them for their evidence. So they can be submitting evidence throughout the course of the year. So they'll have a text box where they can type in information. They can upload their documents throughout the year. Just remind them to hit save at the bottom rather than submit. So that way we can add our evidence throughout, save it, but we're not going to submit until the very end of the school year. So once we get to the end of the school year, we've submitted all of our evidence. Principals and APs will also be asked some survey questions. And that data are going to be shared at the state level, really to help us for our program evaluation purposes and help us monitor our progress. Are there some things that we maybe need to tweak? And then step 4, that's when I've submitted my evidence, right? And I've completed at least 30 clock hours from the state approved list. And if I'm a new principal, I've done year 1 of that mentoring program. So once I've come to the end of the school year, this is where the principal or AP, they're going to certify that they have successfully completed our program requirements. So this is how we know at the state level and how you know as their supervisor and at the district level that they're saying they completed all program requirements to get that stipend. Now here's the checks and balances, right? That's when the supervisor then comes in and will say, I hereby certify that this person has successfully completed all program requirements to get that stipend. So that's the data that we're using, where we're pulling from to see if you've gotten that, if you're eligible to, because you've earned the stipend, right? Because you've completed the program. Otherwise, we won't know. So that's why this evaluation system is required. Now, we do have some resources available for you. Again, alabamaprincipals.org. And if you click on that evaluation system tab at the top, you'll see some best practice tips and you'll just see some considerations for thinking about goal setting. Some of those example sources of data that I discussed, maybe even some examples for you. At the end of the day, these PLPs are going to be reviewed and approved by the district, just like it always has. But it does look a little bit different. And so for that reason, we provided some examples for you and your school administrators just to help support you and start guiding that conversation. But it's still going to be an LEA decision what those PLP, what that looks like, what the goals look like, and then that professional learning that they're going to participate in. That's all approved at the district level. And then if you want some additional supports about navigating the platform, this APLDS evaluation system, again, remember that looks different for superintendents and district administrators. And I went into a little bit more of that in the August session. But if you go to that website, alabamaprincipals.org, you'll see step-by-step directions, some videos, some screenshots, both for you as a superintendent and district administrator. And then if you scroll on down, you're going to see directions for your school administrators as well, just to help you navigate through this system. So let's talk deadlines. So at this point, everybody would have logged into AIM, gone ahead and done your user settings. And then for principals and APs, they need to complete steps 1 and 2 of the APLDS evaluation system, and it needs to be approved by October 1st, right? So I've completed my goals. I've done my plan for professional learning. I've done my PLP, and it has been approved by my supervisor by October 1st. Now, the other 2 steps, right, evidence and certification of completion, we have until the end of the school year to wrap that up. So again, we want to be submitting that evidence along the way, but once we get to the point where we're closing out our evidence and then we're doing that certification of completion, doing that at the end of the school year. Now remember that the way this stipend is going to work is that is a one lump sum once you've successfully completed all program requirements. But remember, we don't know that you've completed all program requirements until you tell us, and that's step 4, right? And so once everybody has certified and completed that step 4, the APLDS district contact person will reach out to us, say, all right, we're all certified, all principals and APs, we're certified. Either we did it or we didn't. So we've all completed step 4. Now you'll let us know. We'll go ahead and process those payments for the district. Now, it does take 6 to 8 weeks to process payment. So once those stipends have been processed, it's going to go to that CSFO and then at the district, and then the district, will disperse the stipends. Now, at this point, we have 2 different deadlines here. We've got those who are retiring, and then at the end of the year, and then those individuals who are not retiring. And here's why: because the stipend does count towards retirement. So if somebody is planning to retire at the end after this school year, they're finishing up the school year, but then they're going to retire. Steps 3 and 4 need to be completed no later than May 1st. So we can go ahead and process that stipend sooner so you can get paid before your retirement date. Now, everybody else, all those others who are not retiring, remember we said you technically have until the 3rd week of June. However, we highly recommend that you go ahead and knock this out sooner. Go ahead and knock it out in May. And here's why: because if everybody goes ahead and you certify sooner, we can process that payment sooner, and then principals and APs can get paid sooner. So yes, you technically have until the 3rd week of June, but we highly recommend go ahead and completing that in May, if at all possible. Now, you may have been getting the question, hey, where can I find that state approved list? And again, if you go to that alabamaprincipals.org, you're going to click on the tab that says professional learning, and you'll see a list there. And then another question you may be getting are, how are we awarding those APLDS clock hour credit? Everything is going to go through PowerSchool Professional Learning. That is our statewide platform for professional learning. So all the credit is going to be awarded. Now, how you know that that was on the state approved list for the APLDS program? Well, look for that naming convention of APLDS. So every course in PowerSchool has been created to start with APLDS. So that's just a really good tip to search for, that once you see APLDS, it has been on that state approved list. Now, a couple other things I want to go over in terms of professional learning reminders. So the Principal Act is tied to the Literacy Act and to the Numeracy Act. So there is language in the law that elementary school administrators, so that means both principals and APs, if you serve at a school with grades K-3, you will need to participate in professional learning from ARI. I know that they've got leadership labs. They've really put a lot of thought into restructuring what that looks like for principals. It's going to be really hands-on. What I've heard about it, it sounds fantastic. A really intimate setting of getting into the classroom, and more like a coaching lab setting. There's also opportunities for your APs for virtual sessions that's offered through ARI that will meet this requirement. So if you have any questions about ARI training, you can reach out to your ARI specialist. Now, if you are a principal AP and you have grades K through 5, that's participating in OMI professional learning. So everyone counts. We've actually had several members from OMI helping to collaborate with the different pieces like the framework and things like that. And so the feedback I heard from them is what they're going to be doing with Everyone Counts. Now that's available for principals and APs. It's going to be really tied to these new standards and this new program. So we're really trying hard to streamline some of these things for you. So I'm really excited about those professional learning opportunities being offered by ARI and OMI this year. All right, so your district may be offering professional learning that meets the criteria for being on that state approved list. And if so, there's a request form for you to complete. And then if your district is offering an ACLD PLU, just email me, reach out to me, and let's talk through what those next steps are, because we're not going to go through the request form for that one. If you go to that alabamaprincipals.org again website, you'll see that there were some summer conference opportunities. There's a section for conferences at the bottom, and we'll continue to add to it. So just know that, but just in case you want to lift that up to your principals and APs in case they attended any of those conferences. And we are getting the question about when am I participating in that professional learning? It's going to be that same time frame as that PLP cycle. Now, Power School Professional Learning is going through an upgrade, and once we've completed that, it does look a little bit different. The interface of the platform looks different, but once all of that's done, we're going to have some videos and screenshots to show you where you can find and where your school administrators can find and keep track of their APLDS clock hours so they can count up to make sure that they're getting at least, remember, the law says at least 30 hours, uh, um, uh, 30 APLDS clock hours. So we'll provide those supports for you. It's going to be on the alabamaprincipals.org website as well once we have gone through that upgrade, and then we have those videos ready for you. So just be on the lookout for that. All right, the mentoring program, we've partnered with class on this one. Really excited about this. It is a long-term relationship between that new principal and a trained mentor. So remember, that's for 2 consecutive years. We're now engaging in year 1 of the mentor program. And really the purpose is to foster not just their professional development, but also their academic and personal development. Some of their goals and outcomes include really supporting that new principal, building that connection and that extra layer of support that they need with this new role, this as the principal of their campus. We want to help them as they gain their confidence in this new role, help deepen their understanding in those 5 domains. Remember those 5 areas that we have of principal effectiveness, which are our 5 standards, and helping them to identify what are their core values as the principal, as the main school administrator of their building, and to ultimately help them stay in the principalship. So if you go to alabamaprincipals.org, you'll find that program manual there that lays out these goals and outcomes and also the program structure. So you can see how we are pulling the mentors together and engaging in training with them. The mentors will be focusing on particular topics each month. You'll see that it coincides with what they probably are focusing on at that time of the school year. So if you just want more information about that program, you can take a look at that alabamaprincipals.org. So at this point, if we knew of your new principals, they have been paired with a mentor, and you should have received notification email from me. The class mentor coordinator, Rhonda Wheeler, she is phenomenal. She is very passionate about mentorship for principals. So she'll be working with your new principals as well and coordinating those efforts. We've already had our program orientation in-person option in September, but there's going to be a virtual program orientation option later in September. And just a sneak peek about what this framework is going to look like. So we are still polishing it right now with the design team, but really we're wanting it to be a tool to unpack this standard. So if we're taking each of the standards and the indicators up under the standard, what do I need to know, right? What are those key concepts? What do I need to be able to do? What are those critical skills? Where am I at now along that continuum of practice? So what does this look like if I'm emerging or developing? What if I'm effective or transformational, right? So what are those descriptors along that continuum of practice? And then what are some just example strategies for me to help me move from one level to the next? Is some examples for how superintendents and school administrators, supervisors can help build up capacity. So I just want to give you a sneak peek. More information will be coming in October, but the design team is really working hard on this resource for you all. All right, next steps. So as we come to a close and we just recap what we need to make sure that we're doing right now. First of all, make sure your school administrators know about this new law and this new program that's going into effect starting this year. So a good resource to share with them would be that alabamaprincipals.org. So we should have selected the district option in AMTE at this point so that they have access to the evaluation system. If I don't know if you want somebody other than a superintendent to be the APLDS district contact, just let me know, communicate that name and email to me so that I know who to keep in the loop. It's really also to help streamline communications with principals and APs so that we can share that information at the district level, and then you can provide that guidance within your district. Making sure EdDur is up to date with the staff positions. And I said this earlier, but making sure we know who your new principals are. And at this point, we should be providing that guidance on that professional learning plan and making sure it's approved by October 1st. And then I do have some session information for your school administrators, and I think in about 2 slides, if you can share that out with them. Now, if you need a just step-by-step guide, a timeline of making sure you're staying on track and that all these different steps are being completed, you have this timeline available for you. And I'll update that if I get new information and new deadline dates. But that's just one resource for you to check out. And here's that APLDS session for school administrators that I was talking about. In September, we're focusing on completing that APLDS evaluation system, but also using that as a leverage to increase our capacity as school administrators. And then in October, we'll be focusing on how we can use that new framework to increase our effectiveness and really maximize our influence with our students and our staff and our community. So if you'll share that session flyer with them, that information, that'd be great. And you've got the Power School Professional Learning course number as well. And then please know if there's anything whatsoever that we can do to help support you in your district and your school administrators as we roll out this new program and this new law. We want to make sure that everybody feels very confident and comfortable rolling this out. And again, we get that it's new. So if we can support you, even if it's individualized district support, please don't hesitate to reach out. You've got my contact information there. All right. Thank you again. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.